Like a vampire, I don't need to know you. Come with me, I'll show you. You can find me backstage, I'm a party with a Nicolas Cage. Girl, I want that body, you know you got a body like Nicolas Cage. You ain't gotta be scared, you ain't gotta be afraid, baby. It's just you and me alone tonight with Nicolas Cage.
Welcome back to Late Night Cage Fight. This is the golden age of Cage, finally coming to an end. This is our Cage Fight, and we are here with a very special guest. This is Melissa from the punk band Tomb of Nick Cage.
Hi guys, how's it going?
We are so excited to have you here. Thank you for coming on the show and agreeing to do this, to be our Cagelord. That's so awesome.
I love that. I want to walk around with that honor all the time, but I'm happy to have it right now in the momentary.
You can put it on your official resume, Cagelord.
I'm totally doing it.
I feel like we should have sent you a sash.
It's going to be on all my profiles now.
Yeah, so if you didn't know, at the end of each season, we have our Cage Fight, where all of the movies that were the winners, we kind of pit them against each other and have a Cagelord decide which Nick Cage film will go into our B Cage of Fame. This is a big deal in the Cageverse. Let's go through the movies. These are the movies we have this season. Or actually, maybe I should mention the movies that have won so far in this show. The first one was Birdie. You guys remember Birdie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How could I forget?
That was a fun fight, yeah. And then last
Nothing
season...
beats bird sex.
Yeah, lots of talk about interspecial relationships with that one. Yeah.
We're not kink shaming.
No.
No. I'm only against furries. Featheries are still fair game.
And then last season's winner was Vampire's Kiss.
Yes. The number one forever.
Yeah.
That's a hard one to beat there.
It is.
I tried.
Yeah.
Oh, which one did you want to win?
My pick was Amos and Andrew.
Not over Vampire's Kiss. God. That's all right, Steve.
Steve had a hard time defending that one.
Yeah.
If I recall. Yeah. So
I'd just like to say that I was responsible technically for both wins, and that is a lot of responsibility.
that's true. That's true. But Cagelord Melissa, please don't let that affect your final decision. If Sean picks something, you don't have to.
I have to know Sean's reasoning first. I'm going to have to take that into consideration.
Yes,
because,
definitely.
like I said, this is unduly fair. So unduly unfair.
Just don't take his hair into consideration.
It's styling. I like it.
All right, so the movies that have won this season are Deadfall, where Nicolas Cage played the role of Eddie. It Could Happen to You. He was Charlie Lang. Leaving Las Vegas, Ben Sanderson. That was his Academy Award win. The Rock. He was Stanley Goodspeed. Con Air, playing Cameron Poe. And Castor Troy in Face Off.
I do want to mention that we have 6 entries here because both Con Air and Face Off, that was our final episode there. And we were not able to make a decision, so we posted a poll to let our fans make a decision, and they also tied the poll. So
they did.
Both entries had to come into the final cage match for your deliberation. So
that's right.
I apologize in advance for putting that stress on you. But
It is kind of stressing me out, but I think I do have a favorite between the two.
Okay,
that's
great.
Good. That's good.
That is good.
Well, hopefully the fact that you have a song about Castor Troy doesn't play into it.
It's going to play... Yes and no. It's going to play into it. I don't want to give any spoilers away. Ahead of time.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that. So the criteria for choosing the best Nick Cage film, really, I'd like you to just base it off of our conversations and just anything that sticks out to you that you think would be a pro or a con.
Okay.
I mean, You are welcome.
I just want to point out that it's not necessarily just the greatest film, but caginess is an important factor in making a decision.
Right.
So we are going to jump into discussing the first two movies, but first I'd like to take some time to talk about your band, The Tomb of Nick Cage. Yeah, just tell us a little bit about your band and how you guys decided on this amazing name.
Well, it's pretty crazy because I'm sure you guys know all this, but for anybody listening that doesn't know, Nicolas Cage lived in New Orleans for a while. He actually owned the Lalaurie Mansion, and he has his tomb already erected in St. Louis No. 1 Cemetery in New Orleans, and that's the same cemetery as like Marie Laveau and a lot of dignitaries of New Orleans. And there's a lot of rumor about why he built the tomb there, but I went on a cemetery tour with a friend of mine, and we saw it, and it's like this gigantic white pyramid with some mysterious Latin on the front of it that means all from one, essentially. And so I was like, well, if I ever have another band, I'm going to call it The Tomb of Nick Cage, because it's just too wild. And the more I started digging into it, the more I was fascinated. I mean, everything from like latitude and longitude lines. It's like the rumors about why it's there. I've heard everything from the fact that it was just promoting. He was hoping to do National Treasure 3, and it was promotional. I heard that a voodoo priestess told us if he would continue to have bad financial luck until he built the tomb. I've heard that he is a vampire and he regenerates, has to have a place to regenerate.
That's fact,
yes.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. But yeah, there's so many rumors about why the tomb is there. And women would go in and kiss it, and it'd be lipstick marks all over it. So it's the Archdiocese of New Orleans has a perpetual care program for that cemetery, so they have to take care of it. So they had to keep pressure washing it, all the lipstick off and whatnot. And also people would do things like they go in and paint Marie Laveau's tomb, or they would write on it. So now you have to go in with a tour guide, or the tour guide will get fined. You can't just when I went in, you could just go in and look at it. Now you have to go in with a guide because they're protecting his tomb from further vandalization. So, but I could go on just on the name, just where the name comes from forever on that. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
So that's why the name of our first album is The Pharaoh of New Orleans, because we consider him the Pharaoh.
That makes sense. Yeah,
sick.
He is the one true God. So
yeah, he has a special place here.
My very last vacation right before COVID, back in I think it was August of 2019, I got the opportunity to go to New Orleans, and I tried to go to St. Louis Cemetery No. 1, but yeah, like you said, you have to go in with a guide now. And we just got there before it closed, so
that's where the cemetery scene in Easy Rider was filmed, and they broke a bunch of stuff. So now you can't even film in there anymore. They won't allow any film crews to come in and do any work in there. So it's kind of sad.
Wow.
But
yeah, it's interesting that he used to own the Lalaurie Mansion. I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah.
I saw that when I was there, but yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and of course there's rumors about that too, that it's so haunted that he couldn't stay there. But I think that it's probably maybe financial reasons. But but I can't say
because he was scaring the ghosts. The Ghost Rider.
So. I want to see that movie. I want that to be a movie now.
You want to ask the next question, Sean?
Yeah. When was the last time you got a chance to actually see the tomb?
I was in a band with a friend of mine called Linda, and we were based out in Los Angeles and Texas, and she flew in, and that's one of the number one things on her docket. She was only in town for 2 days, and so I went a few years ago to go see it, but I haven't been back. I need to go back soon.
Yeah, that's definitely on my list when I go back.
Oh yeah, I mean I'll meet you out there. We'll go and see the tomb. And I tell people, I say, well, what do you think you should do? And of course I tell everybody that comes in town, and they're like, well, why do I want to do that? I'm like, well, we're not friends anymore, so how do you like that? Just go to Bourbon Street, I don't know, get a daiquiri. I don't care anymore. If you don't want to go see Nicolas Cage's tomb.
Do you think there's a chance Nick Cage has heard you guys?
Yes. Yeah, I know. I'm not saying he likes it, but we had a friend of ours who was a special effects makeup artist, and he worked on Nicolas Cage for a movie, and he wore our shirt. So, and Nicolas Cage, from what I understand, from what was said to me, and of course I don't know, this is all hearsay, but he said, they have shirts too. So I'm not saying I think it was an acknowledgement, but it wasn't it wasn't like an endorsement, because we're not easy listening. I also have heard stories that he does kind of know about his kind of insane fandom. So I think he's surprised, but so I think he kind of knows, but he just keeps a low profile, which makes me love it even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're convinced that somebody heard our awful podcast, and that's why they made the unbearable weight of massive talent. It was like a reaction to what we're doing.
You know what? I don't. I believe everything. Like, we use a lot of like pyramid stuff in our art and our music, to reflect the pyramid, and and you guys will go down this rabbit hole, but after a certain period of time, if you look at his films, pyramid symbolism shows up in a lot of his films. So that's something I haven't really talked about that. I kind of wanted to put together my thesis about that, but I'm telling you guys first, start looking at his movies and you'll see you'll see pyramids everywhere now.
Okay, well, Steve, what have we seen in his movies that keep popping up? The lizards,
the lizards, fucking geckos.
The geckos.
Wow. Werner Herzog used that prominently in Bad Detective, Port of Orleans. I don't know if you guys have seen that one yet, but that Werner Herzog film, it was very heavy on the lizards. So now that you guys are bringing that up, I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely one that caught our eye. I think the day I reveal that movie to Cage Fighter Sean will be like the day I level up in the universe, because that's a glorious one. Bad Lieutenant.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
To me, that's a dream come true. Like the world's most existential filmmaker with Nicolas Cage, who may be the world's most existential actor, working together. So that's pretty iconic.
Oh, definitely.
Strange film, but I liked it.
Yeah, it was strange, but it was also just like alluring. It had its own kind of special magic that made you want to go back and watch some of these scenes.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're talking with Melissa from the Tomb of Nick Cage. Their website is tombofnickcage.com. Now that's Nick with a K. Mm-hmm. Tombofnickcage.com, and you can find them on Spotify, Bandcamp, Apple Music is where I've been listening. Awesome stuff. I can't recommend it enough. So the first movie that won our versus battle was Deadfall. Now this was a Coppola film, not Francis Ford, but Christopher Coppola. I don't know what to say about this movie other than like without Nick Cage's performance as Eddie, it's really just a slog.
Yeah.
Right, guys?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like if you watch the highlights of Deadfall on YouTube, which you can easily do, it's some of the most amazing acting I've ever seen in my life. And we all know the behind-the-scenes facts, right, about how Cage was able to create his own wardrobe, choose his accent, that bizarre accent, which, I mean, Cage does in so many movies. What would you guys say is the strongest argument for Deadfall to come out as the winner in this Cage fight?
It was the only one good enough to get a spiritual sequel.
Oh my god. There is a sequel. Not many people know. Nicolas Cage, he came back for Arsenal, the sequel to Deadfall. Let me read the synopsis real quick of Deadfall just to remind ourselves of this amazing plot. After he accidentally kills his father Mike during a sting, Joe tries to carry out Mike's dying wish by recovering valuables that Mike's twin brother Lou stole from him years earlier. But Uncle Lou is also a confidence artist, and Joe is soon drawn into his increasingly dangerous schemes. This is honestly probably one of the worst movies made on a $10 million Hollywood budget. There, you can't even find sales information. I couldn't find, how much money this movie made, but it's just so iconic for Nicolas Cage's role that, we couldn't not pick it. Right.
Do we know why it's called Deadfall?
A deadfall must be some kind of mob term, or no, Cage Fighter Sean.
Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, go ahead, look that stuff up. You notice how in the synopsis, Eddie, Nick Cage's character, isn't even mentioned. So I think that's something that we have to consider. He's not a main character. He's not the main character, but man, is it an iconic performance.
Right. I don't think anybody can. I think that performance was the movie. I don't think after that it's like, how can anybody even act around that? And then the second half of the movie, it's like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
After he gets his face fried.
So I will say, watching the movie, that the first time that we watched it was actually during NCAN, the Nicolas Cage Appreciation Night. And after Nick Cage was no longer part of the movie, we actually stopped it at that point. I don't think we finished it the first time.
You're probably right. There was a lot of drinking at that time.
There was. But I would say one of the main reasons that I appreciate this movie is just because of how strong the caginess factor is a huge part of this movie. I mean, he is. Mm-hmm. He's just beyond amazing, and I think it's probably one of his most iconic roles up to that date for sure. Mm-hmm. It's when he really cut himself loose, and Vampire's Kiss
especially in the meme verse
one, but
especially in the meme verse, right? I mean, you get absolutely. The hi fucking yeah, like you can't forget that. That's amazing.
I think he still goes back. He reprises that hi ya now and again too.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I thought he said that in the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Did,
if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. Man.
But yeah, I mean, he really put his all into that movie, and I also think that it's interesting how a lot of the other co-stars that he was in that movie with went on to have very prominent careers as well. Mm-hmm. Michael Biehn.
Well, he was already. When did Aliens come out? Right, like that in Terminator. Yeah, I don't know. I really liked Michael Biehn, and when I saw him in this movie, I realized I feel like he's one of those actors that really requires a great director to bring out the best possible performance, which is why he shines in those classic 80s movies. And in this one, it just seemed like a free-for-all, really. I mean, when you let Nicolas Cage do whatever he wants, obviously he's going to steal the show, which he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So...
But I think that's what's good about it. I mean, it was definitely a bunch of cocaine buddies getting together and making a film, and it was very reminiscent of the idea of let's just grab a video camera and let's see what we can do, And I felt like they did that on a professional level, which I just really admire that.
Okay, well, yeah, it did feel like
my cocaine buddies don't want to make a movie.
Yeah, wherever they are,
they just want more cocaine.
Right, Cage Fighter Steve.
This one's probably the least known out of all of the movies we've done this era. Mm-hmm. And probably so far, besides maybe like Cotton Club and Time to Kill, which you can't buy on Apple for probably obvious.
Time to Kill was very hard for me to track down for us to watch.
Yeah.
Man.
It was a pretty good film.
Netflix, if you need content.
There you go.
Definitely a family film.
All right, well, I say we move on from Deadfall. We've pretty much said everything there is to say about it. Right?
Except for just, that hangar scene is my favorite. I could watch it over and over and over again and laugh every time. And that had to be off the cuff. That wasn't planned.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so, to me, that was just magical.
It was.
So whenever I'm depressed, I go watch him flip that hanger.
Someone's trying to kill me, man! Oh! The fucking hangers!
It Could Happen to You, 1994. I'm gonna be honest, fellas. This was the one movie of the bunch that I kind of had. I struggled remembering.
When I saw that was on the list again, I legitimately forgot what it was about.
Yeah. So Nicolas Cage plays Charlie Lang opposite Bridget Fonda as Yvonne. This is inspired by a true story of Detective Robert Cunningham and his wife. This film was inspired by a true story of someone who won a lottery ticket and wanted to share it with a waitress. That's the gist of it. So Charlie and Muriel Lang have led simple lives for most of their existence. That's until they win $4 million on the lottery. Prior to winning the lottery, Charlie had eaten at a cafe and hadn't been able to tip the waitress. He had promised her jokingly that if he won the lottery, he would give her half of it. This is the reason why his wife decides to leave him. She doesn't want the waitress to get the money. In fact, she wants the whole $4 million for herself. It made for some nice drama. There was actually some interesting Cage outs, if I recall. There's a super fun robbery sequence where there's a guy robbing the store and Cage takes him out. That stuck out to me. But the real story, if I recall, wasn't nearly as interesting, right, as real life tends to be. But yeah.
I just want to go on the record here to say that I had voted for guarding Tess against this movie initially, and clearly by the unbearable weight of massive talent, Nick Cage also agreed with me. So truthfully, the fact that this movie is even in the running right now is on YouTube. So just want to put that out there.
I am a bit ashamed. I feel like I have lost to Steve, because when I saw the coverage that Guarding Tess was getting in that movie, which, by the way, we do have a review coming. The Massive Talent movie review is coming. But you're right, Steve. Maybe we got that wrong in the Cageverse. We're not perfect. We're fallible beings here.
Yeah.
To be fair, I don't think either film would likely advance this cage fight.
It's not up to you, cage fighter Sean. Although
it was wholesome. It was a wholesome movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's about the lottery. They're generating tax income for like schools and stuff. And,
they're just such perfect people.
Right.
It's kind of like a commentary on Cage's career. It's basically like a lottery. Sometimes he wins big and sometimes he doesn't.
I like that. I think he would probably like that too. That's true. Yeah.
Does Hollywood have like a Nicolas Cage draft like the NFL where he's required to be in certain films?
They should. I don't watch sports, Sean.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't actually know how that works. Maybe Nicolas Cage.
Well, hey, we're gonna have part 2 of our band interview now with Melissa from the Tomb of Nick Cage, a horror punk band that is awesome. I want to ask you, Melissa.
Yeah.
What is your favorite cryptid? This was Sean's question. Sorry, Sean.
Okay, so I'm a werewolf girl, and we have a cryptid down here in the swamps of Louisiana called the Rougarou, or the Loup-garou. Right. And, I feel like every culture has a werewolf, like a werewolf lore, but that's ours. And they used to tell the kids stories about how the Rougarou would pull their toes if they weren't good. But it's a lot of really weird lore about it. It's a regular werewolf, but if you were cursed by someone, you had to be a wolf for 101 days. Ooh. And the only way you could slow him down is to like throw pennies or rice or something, because evidently you had to stop and count them. So it's got like some weird side werewolfiness to it. So I think that would have to be my favorite.
So it's like if the Count from Sesame Street became a werewolf.
Exactly. It's like somebody completely neurotic. It's like, I gotta count this rice.
Yeah.
So it's just, I love that weird aside about the Rougarou though, or the Loup-garou.
Yeah. That was one track on your guys' album that I didn't know what that was. But the lyrics...
And all that stuff is kind of like a little bit of like Cajun French lore from the bayou.
Yeah.
So I throw in a lot of little references to different monsters and stuff like that.
That's cool. That would scare the shit out of me as a kid. Definitely.
Evidently, it was effective. So.
Definitely.
Because there's a Rougarou festival every year too, and so the lasting impact of the Rougarou.
Oh, there
is pretty big. Yeah.
Right on.
It's around Halloween, and they have like a march of witches and things like that. So it's a lot of fun.
That's so cool. Yeah. I'm not going to complain about Hawaii, but man, we don't have stuff like that.
But you guys do, though. You have like a lot of things like, don't you have like kappa and things like that that'll drag you into the water?
Yeah.
You have water sprites, I think, in Hawaii.
Yeah, there's some Japanese mythology influence here with the local population. For sure. There's some of that. Yeah. It's just...
You guys got yokai? Yeah. I'm coming.
Yokai. Do you want me to follow up, Sean, with the question that you added on here that I just now read? Okay.
Yeah. It's really important.
Who is the sexiest cryptid?
Oh, the kids are into that. Okay, so that's like a furry adjacent or something with that. The sexiest cryptid. Well, I guess for the guys, there's a lot of beautiful women that rise out of the like mermaids, maybe, and like water sprites, maybe would be, and then.
Which cryptid are you most attracted to personally?
Oh, Steve.
I don't know, maybe like hairy, angry guys. So maybe like I don't know, maybe werewolves. Werewolves, I suppose. If I had to pick a cryptid,
that's fair, right? I mean,
that I suppose, because he'd be like a dude half the time, be reasonable 50% of the time. Right. So yeah, that's kind of sexy.
The real question is whether or not you've seen the Mothman statue.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and we went to when we were touring up to Maine. We stopped in Point Pleasant and took pictures with the Mothman statue.
Nice.
And we have a song about the Mothman too.
Yeah.
So we had to definitely stop in Point Pleasant. And I suggest everybody go. It's really kind of cool. Now the Mothman didn't look anything like that from the reports, but we don't care.
Yeah.
Because I know everybody shows pictures of his little butt and stuff like that. So I don't know. He said he gave Mothman a muscular butt. I'm gonna look into who designed that statue because that's some interesting choices.
They,
as far
they
as I'm
had
concerned.
some fun with that.
At least
one.
got like 6-pack abs and stuff. So
that's cool. Yeah, Steve and I we're from southeastern Ohio, so it's not that far, right? Like 4-hour drive to the Mothman.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying to West Virginia. I was like, it's like a 3-minute walk.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they have a Mothman festival there every year too that looks like a lot of fun. They have like bands play, I think, and stuff like that. So it's like a 3-day weekend of Mothman, and some podcasts do the paranormal guys.
Yeah.
They go out and they'll podcast from Point Pleasant.
That's cool.
So that might be a good little journey one.
Yeah.
I think it's in September.
Yeah, I thought that the Mothman movie they made like a decade or so ago, I thought it was pretty good. I liked it.
It was good,
Yeah, I liked that.
but it was inaccurate.
Yeah, they took.
I mean, I know I'm talking about cryptids right now, but as far as like, I think that he was kind of like benevolent and warning everybody. And I think the real Mothman was kind of like a malevolent entity. So, but I really like the movie too.
Yeah.
I like the movie too. But there's a documentary from Small Town Monsters where they do a really good job doing interviews and stuff like that.
Okay.
So if you guys ever want to like follow up on that, that's really good too. But yeah, I did enjoy that. It had who did it have in it? Who was it? Who was in the Was it Richard Gere or something?
I think so. Richard Gere.
I think it was.
I don't remember the actress's name, but she's an Ozark now.
Laura Linney, maybe.
That's it, Laura Linney.
Was it Richard Gere and Laura Linney?
Was it her?
I'll have to look that up.
Don't worry, if we're wrong,
edit it out.
Fix it in post.
Yeah, don't be deceived when you listen to our podcast and it sounds like we know what we're talking about. It's only half true. Do you want to talk about the other members in your band and how you came together?
Yeah, so Sean and I started this band, and it was supposed to be like a post-punk new wave type project. And so we actually went in and we did an EP that you can get up on Bandcamp still. I loaded that up, and that was just the two of us. So we had a drum machine, I played guitar and sang, and he played bass. And then we got offered somebody got offered, his other band got offered a show and couldn't take it. And I said, well, we should do it. So, like I said, we were kind of like a post-punk new wave band, and I had a bunch of metal guys that wanted to come play with me. So that's how we got, that wasn't the first incarnation, but now this incarnation has been with me for like 6 years. So, my friend Aaron McGuire, which did hardcore punk for, we've been friends for 30 years. And then Taylor Suarez, who's a really young, fantastic lead guitar player. And then Eddie Joubert plays drums. And we were both horror punkers. So we had been to the same shows but never met. So we've been together for like 6 years now, this lineup.
So how active is the horror scene punk today, and how has the pandemic affected all of that?
I'm surprised because there's a new crop of young horror punk bands, and it really kind of, I think, took off during the pandemic. It's like that was like what they needed to keep going, and everything is kind of horrifying right now. So I think that there's definitely a need for kind of like the catharsis of horror rock right now, and dressing up and becoming somebody new. And there's actually I think it's probably as vibrant as I've ever seen it right now. So we're kind of like some of the elders, but I'm really happy for, because you don't see a bunch of kids playing music anymore. It's not like it used to be. But there's all these kids in their 20s being gravitating back to horror punk. So I think that's kind of neat. I love that.
What were some of the favorite bands that you've played with before?
Oh, well, we just got back from playing with 45 Grave and Ghoultown, which to me, that's like if I had a dream bill, that would be it. So 45 Grave is definitely one of my favorite bands. We're gonna be coming up playing with Total Chaos soon here in New Orleans, which is awesome. We've played with Doyle from the Misfits. Who else have we played with down here? Powerman 5000, Pigface. So we've been really lucky. We've gotten to open for Calabrese, a lot of the big horror punk acts.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I used to go see a lot of like psychobilly, rockabilly inspired horror punk bands. Like I've seen like Necromantics.
Oh, so awesome.
Like I used to be really into like the Horror Pops and Tiger Army and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome. They used to have a big festival called Heavy Rebel Weekender in North Carolina. I don't know if but they would do a lot of psychobilly type stuff. And I love that too.
Very cool. Well, before we get onto our next two movies to discuss here on Late Night Cage Fight, I want to ask you one more question about Nick Cage. If you could pick any Nick Cage movie to watch that isn't mentioned tonight, what would it be and why?
And if I can only pick one, Vampire's Kiss. I mean, we haven't. It's not in the match.
Right,
You're saying,
not in the
or
match.
just one we
That's
haven't
what I mean.
mentioned.
Yeah.
It would be Vampire's Kiss. That movie is Cage from the second it starts to the time it ends. It's like if I had to pick a movie that they didn't waste a Nicolas Cage frame, then it would be that movie. And I think it's a smarter movie than people give it credit for. I think and I have a whole theory on that, but it would be Vampire's Kiss.
All right, well let's talk about Leaving Las Vegas. This one really took us for a surprise because we knew Leaving Las Vegas was one of Nick Cage's most successful, most popular films. But really, apart from the trailer, maybe we watched the trailer together, we didn't really know the tone of this movie. I went in thinking it was going to be a story of redemption, fall from grace and then eventual redemption coming back. And then that made it hit so much harder, right, when that movie ended. What did you guys think about Leaving Las Vegas?
So I believe I even said during our initial review that I really expected it to be much more of like an action kind of film.
Okay.
And I was really confused as we watched it because I was waiting for the action to start, and it just never really came.
What made you think it was an action film?
I think it was the trailer or just some of the general impressions I'd had of the movie. I'm so used to like these movies and Vegas being like Nick Cage guns blazing kind of deal, And
Okay.
so
It's gonna be like a heist
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
I wish I could have seen your face when you finally realized and accepted.
Yeah.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
not an action film.
Yeah.
So this came out in 1995, MGM film. Nicolas Cage played the role of Ben Sanderson, opposite the character Sarah, played by Elizabeth Shue. The genre here, I kind of created a new genre. It's a dark-ass drama / romance. Written by writer, director, composer Mike Figgis, adapted from a novel by John O'Brien, who actually passed away right when this film came out. Ben Sanderson, Nicolas Cage, is a Hollywood agent who has lost everything in his life due to alcoholism. He loses his job, his family, and he makes the decision to drive to Las Vegas and drink himself to death. In Vegas, Ben meets a prostitute named Sarah and fosters a strange and powerful friendship with her before the film descends into a carnival of depravity and tragedy. This was a tough one to talk about, I remember.
It's kind of like when you're in your 20s and you're at the party and there's that naked drunk guy and he's just acting all crazy, but then like you get to your 30s and it's just like, oh, he's got like a son,
Yeah.
and he's like lost his job and is in debt and
Yeah.
is sick.
And maybe you have like one conversation with this guy and it seems so mundane, but that conversation sticks with you. And then years later you find out that this guy, something horrible happened to him, right? He died. And then you think like, oh, maybe that was like my chance to say something to him and I didn't do anything. That's kind of how Leaving Las Vegas made me feel, watching him descend into
Like a voyeur.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like it is, and he rides that razor's edge, and this is why I think that he was deserving of the Academy. Was he rode that razor's edge between comedy and tragedy so fine that you are in there and you kind of like are kind of giggling at him at first, and it's kind of walking through the store and grabbing all the booze
Yeah.
and hardy har, trying to get all the booze in his suitcase, and too late you kind of realize that this is not funny, and you're right, like maybe you want to reach in and you want to stop the inevitable from happening, but you've already been party to the demise at that point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's good stuff.
Yeah, that reminds me of that scene towards the beginning when he's in the bar and he's hitting on that one girl and he's just like way too fucked
Yeah.
up, and it starts out like, oh, this guy's like being pretty creepy, it's kind of funny, and then it just
Right.
like takes a turn and gets,
And it's sad because he's like, oh, you're so
sad.
pretty. You're so pretty. Like, he's almost like, somebody save me. And everybody's just like, well, get away from me, So he's
Yeah.
kind of looking for that redemption. Ooh.
Yeah.
Wonk, wonk.
So sad.
Yeah. But that's why it's effective.
Great writing. It's just a solid film. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, how much of it is Nicolas Cage? How much of it is just the overall Leaving Las Vegas experience? How iconic is his role? I mean, this is going to be up to you. These are the tough questions that we've had to ask ourselves, and it's kind of nice that we can throw it at a Cagelord now and say, hey, you deal with it.
No, I think that I think that is an important role. I think as far as caginess goes, it was one of his more subdued roles, but he was definitely present as doing his thing.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a beautiful thing. Like, there's very few actors that can make me. You can do that and still feel so endeared to them on a level where, and I think that that's the power of Nicolas Cage, is that, he is us. He's like every man, because if we could just go down the street having meltdowns all the time, we'd be doing it. We're barely hanging in there. So we
Yeah.
see this guy and we're like, that's me. Like, I want to be able to be that free with my expression. And so I think with this movie, even though it was a more subdued role, he was definitely present as Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
I'm doing that on the inside constantly.
Right. It's true. I work at a cafe, and every once in a while a kid will come in and throw themselves on the ground and start screaming, and the parents will apologize to me, and I'm like, no, man, let them do it. This is beautiful. This is the last time in their lives they're going to want to do this for the rest of their lives, and they're not going to be able to. So
And you
have
can't.
at it, kid.
We're going to have a tonal shift now to The Rock, 1996.
Cue helicopter sound.
Oh, Nicholas.
There were helicopters in that movie? I totally forgot.
right. Oh, you did?
No.
Do you remember that Sean Connery is in it?
Of course I do.
Okay, good. So in The Rock is about a mild-mannered chemist who really likes, was it the Beatles? He really likes the Beatles, I think. And an ex-con must lead the counterstrike when a rogue group of military men, led by a renegade general, that was Ed Harris's character, threaten a nerve gas attack from Alcatraz against San Francisco. This was directed by Michael Bay. Nick Cage played... he played Stanley Goodspeed, the biochemist. I remember we kind of struggled. You know, they kind of paint him as a nerd at the beginning, like a nerdy dude, but then he's also like dashing and making love to his girlfriend and.
Yeah. What? So, if you're gonna have a character that's nerdy, why do you introduce them like just banging their supermodel girlfriend and then just like sitting down playing some?
Because they make sure later on in the movie.
Yeah, man, that line.
And then just like sits down, plays some naked guitar, and it's just like.
But he pulled it off.
Yeah.
That was.
I was loving it.
All Nick. It was all Nick.
Yeah.
He improvised all those.
This was a movie. This movie, like I worshipped this movie as a kid. It was like a 13-year-old. We had it on VHS, and I just thought, like, man, when I grow up, I want to be in the FBI and do this shit. I want to take out bad guys and, prom queen wife. That's true, though. I did love this movie a lot. When we watched it, though, recently, I felt like there were a lot more flaws that kind of stuck out. I still dig Michael Bay's kind of touch to it, though. Like, it feels like just like a really long car commercial with action scenes or something. You know, the just epic chase scenes and the shootouts, and Ed Harris was cool. You know, the thing that got me was when Ed Harris was betrayed. Or no, when Ed Harris changed his mind. Mm-hmm. When he decided to be the good guy again. I didn't like that. I thought he should stay the supervillain because he was so good at it. But I felt like for some patriotic reason, right, they wanted to make him like, oh, this is wrong. We can't do this.
And we love it. You know, Ed Harris plays a great villain. I want to see him chew that scenery as the bad guy.
Yeah, in Westworld, man, he is freaking good. Scary as hell. But yeah, I mean, so let's see. I mean, did I go through the story, the basic story? They have the...
Yeah.
They get the gas that they're gonna use. The terrorists are gonna use to attack if the government doesn't compensate these fallen soldiers' families because it's something of a cover-up. It was an interesting premise. Action was really cool. I just personally think that it's not as good an action film as Con Air or Face Off. That's just kind of my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm.
It's bottom tier, but still solid. Oh, I remember what I was going to say earlier. I was so pumped about us talking about The Rock, but when I found it on iTunes, because I used to have this software where I could buy a movie on iTunes, put it in the software, and it would remove the DRM. So I'd feel like, oh, I didn't pirate it. I just removed the DRM. I paid for it. And then I could share it with these guys. Well, I think Apple finally figured it out. And it didn't. And I spent $19 on this film. And I couldn't use my software. And then next week, it was on sale for $5. And I was like, you know what?
It's because you bought it. That's why. They're like, ha ha.
Exactly. Yeah, they're trolling me. But yeah, it was fun to watch and talk about. So I'll let you guys talk now. I know I'm stealing the time here.
I think it was definitely a top tier Michael Bay film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a step above.
Yeah, that's saying it.
Yeah.
It didn't have any truck nuts.
Yeah.
For better or for worse.
Like a lot of the. It seemed to me like a lot of the females, the actresses in the movie that don't have to do a whole lot. They don't even have to act. They just have to look like supermodels. Yes, I'm in the military. I'm 6'4" supermodel. Go get him.
So it's a Michael Bay film.
Yeah, right.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the one criticism that's kind of famous is how when they break into Alcatraz, they got to roll like video game style through these flames that are moving up and down. And somebody was like, "Why would they have that?" And Michael Bay said, "Because it's a movie, and I wanted to make it fun. That's why."
It's like
I was always
Contra.
interested, though.
Right.
I mean, I know I made this comment before. It was funny that the timing was memorized to get in to Alcatraz.
Right. Yeah, to get in because he forgot his wallet when he got out.
That's what I'm guessing.
Not really, but it would be funny.
Speaking of Sean Connery, I did want to mention you mentioned the being one of the main attractions of this film.
Yeah.
The only reason that Sean Connery was in this film was because he found out Nick Cage was in it.
That's right. I think
Is
you
that
told us
really?
that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's rad.
Yeah. That's the only reason he took the role.
Wow.
There's a few stories like that. I wish I could remember, but I think there's a couple other films where the other co-star was like, "Well, I saw that Nick Cage got the role, so I wanted to do it."
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go now, unless you guys have any final thoughts on
I do
The
have a
Rock.
final thought on The Rock.
Okay.
That, I
Please.
remember the ending, and it's like, we never find out who really killed Kennedy, do we?
No.
No, we don't. So I was like, okay, so then I was like, I'm really upset about this because this is really open-ended, and as a conspiracy theorist, I'm like, what was on that? I want to know. Did they ever think about doing a sequel? It was a really big budget movie. It made lots of money. I think it was like one of the top 3 action movies of the year or something. So I looked it up, and the rumor is that Michael Bay was going to do a sequel called like Toxic Rocks or something. And it's about about how they were like, now Sean Connery's, I don't know if this is true or not, but the rumor online is that Sean Connery's daughter gets kidnapped and the prom queen wife, and then they're gonna put toxic rocks, I don't know, in near San Francisco or something, and they're gonna. But we never find out what's on that because Nicolas Cage now has the file or whatever, the microfiche or whatever it was back then. Right. So, but they never did a sequel. So I feel like, number one, I'm not a fan of Michael Bay. But a good action movie is a good action movie. But I want to know what happened. I want to know the end, and we don't get to know.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Michael Bay, if you're listening to this, I'll give you one more chance. You just really put some turds out there, but I will go give you money if you do a sequel to this.
Redeem yourself
with Nicolas Cage.
Of course. That's a must. Thank you for that. Okay, we're going to do our final segment of the band interview.
Oh, sorry, one other point on this one.
Cage Fighter Steve. I'm
sorry. I have to. It's a very important line, and I have to make sure that it's also taken into consideration.
Okay.
Nick Cage did a lot of his own ad-libbing for this. The most important ad-lib that he added was Zeus's butthole. Which Michael Bay did want to cut, but Nick insisted that it stayed in the movie. Which, for me, being the person that constantly makes inappropriate commentary in virtually everything me and Reese do together, but always insists that it stays in, that really stuck with me.
Yeah, like, Steve, you have more in common with Nick Cage than maybe I do, and that's
probably true. Yeah,
it's a crazy world if that's true.
I'd argue that line it increased the Rotten Tomato score by at least 0.5.
I'm confident. I'm confident.
Yeah, definitely.
And of course, Bay wanted to cut it out. That wet noodle. No. This is my serious film.
Coming from the guy that directed Victoria's Secret commercials.
Did he really? That doesn't surprise me.
With helicopters.
I really don't like Michael
and
Bay.
explosions.
Yeah. You know what? Actually, in the agenda, I have us doing the last 2 movies and then the final band interview.
Okay.
Are you guys cool with that, or do you want to break from movies?
I'll do whatever.
All right.
I'm here for the ride.
Let's talk. Well, if you're here for a ride, then
nobody ever
you should
wants to
take a
talk
trip.
about Nicolas Cage movies this far in depth with me. Generally, they start walking away, and I have to follow them, and so it makes me feel good that I can sit here with you guys and talk about this.
That's great. We've been like looking for that feedback for 3 years.
It's true. It's true.
We've been alone so long.
I am a fan.
Usually it's people that laugh because we're talking about Nicolas Cage, or they're angry that we said something that they didn't agree with about Nicolas Cage for whatever reason. Well, not necessarily true. We get some good feedback. We should give ourselves a pat on the shoulder when we deserve it. Let's talk about Con Air. Every blow dryer I've had, it's been a Con Air.
It's true.
Con Air, it came out in 1997, directed by Simon West, who we learned also directed the Never Gonna Give You Up music video.
Oh,
remember?
I forgot.
Yeah. Written by Scott Rosenberg. Nick Cage plays Cameron Poe, a newly paroled ex-con and former U.S. Ranger who finds himself trapped in a prisoner transport plane when the passengers seize control. So these were our last two movies of the season that we watched, Con Air and Face Off, back to back. We had kind of a heated discussion because, you know, ordinarily we're supposed to pick a winner. And for me, I was so convinced I had seen Con Air as a kid, and I had like these unconscious kind of memories of it. But when I went back and watched it, I realized that I really hadn't seen like the full unedited Con Air movie, and I did not remember the epic number of cameos or just amazing actors in this film. And I felt like a little kid again. So if you go back and listen to that episode, you know, I was like, guys, I have so many notes that I'm just going to go through it, and you're going to have to react to it because I was so giddy talking about it. Like, John Malkovich, right? The Dave Chappelle portions. I couldn't believe how much
was ad-libbed.
Yeah, all the ad libs. So I do recommend
Steve Buscemi.
Oh my god!
Yeah, oh yeah,
Epic.
We talked a lot about.
Yeah.
I have a lot of opinions on Steve Buscemi's character in that movie as well. I
would say, this is just from my perspective. You have to understand, this basically was my first time really watching Con Air. Like this would be probably my pick if we were doing it the way that we've done these cage fights before. I would really push for Con Air, but most of the Cageverse, they've been watching this movie for years, right? So it might be best to take a step back. I don't want to influence you too much, but I kind of do. Man, I love Con Air so much. Put the bunny in the box.
I know.
Right? Put the bunny back in the box.
You may not be aware, but this is actually a spiritual sequel to Raising Arizona.
I love Raising Arizona. Yeah, I believe that. I'm going to agree with Steve. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of
100% with Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes back into jail.
Yep.
And then he gets on that
fucked
plane.
up.
Yep.
But he was kind of a bad guy in Raising Arizona.
I think he was just
Well,
a
yeah,
ding
he
ding.
got straight.
He was just a dum-dum, you know? in
Yeah,
Raising
okay.
Arizona.
He got straight.
You can make that
He's
argument.
one of those people who's just going to land in jail for poor decision making. But he might have matured and been wrongfully accused and put on a plane with a bunch of convicts 20 years later.
Right.
Yeah.
Or however long it was. I'm with you, Steve. I'm going to back you on this one.
Well, congratulations, Steve.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
Somebody's backing you up.
For once.
What did you guys like about Con Air? What do you guys think
They don't make movies like that anymore. It was just a 90s ass action movie.
It was Snakes on a Plane, but good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to just like go on and ruin the surprise, but Con Air is definitely in the top for me. It's one of those movies. It's like, I can't say it's like super nutritional, like Leaving Las Vegas, but as far as rewatchability goes, enjoyability, and you know, it's like it's for an outlandish plot. I don't even care. It was like
That's exactly what we said.
It was fun, fun, and it was in the right spirit. The tone was right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so many memes of his performance.
So many.
So
It was a much different experience from the typical cage out kind of thing. So he didn't have like a lot of the extreme and insanity cage outs that he would typically have. But his character was just so well. He was so driven, and I know I believe I'm trying to remember correctly. But I think when he was researching this role, he spent some time in Alabama to try to practice his accent. I believe that was this film.
I think you did say that.
Yeah.
his accent in that movie was certainly a choice.
Oh yeah.
A memorable one.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
And he was totally
just
beefcake too. Beefcake in this. It's like he changes his body for all of his roles too, and he had like been working out for this one, and so I think he was in his prime Cage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
I would have fucked him.
Cameron Poe is my favorite cryptid. I want to change my answer. He's the sexiest cryptid.
Yeah. Well, our super awesome fan base couldn't decide between Con Air and Face Off, which we're just about to talk about. So, Con Air and Face Off, I think, are definitely both up there. Any final thoughts on Con Air before we get to the face swap film?
Yeah, I want to know about the Steve Buscemi thing. If we have time for that, I want to know what your thoughts were. Cage Fighter Steve.
That's actually what I was going to ask. Is do you think that he did it? Do you think that he was? So there was the child scene, right? And then at the end, the kid disappeared and everything. Do you think Steve Buscemi was actually a bad guy and actually whatever he was supposed to be with kids? Or was he actually genuinely just a decent person?
Yes, Steve actually, he made this argument. He thinks that Steve Buscemi's character was actually maybe not a bad guy and was just like a giant troll.
Yeah.
I kind of like got the same vibe. It's like because he had that kindness and whatever, but I like the fact that they left it kind of. They didn't show the little girl, didn't they? Did they show her that she was okay after that scene? I can't remember.
I think so.
I think they did.
I think she was fine, like because they had all the stuff was knocked over, like there had been a scuffle. But then I think you saw her later on, like
the plane flew off and she was standing by the fence.
I think so. I think that
it kind of. I mean, this is just speculation, but it kind of gave me that feeling that they had gone for something darker. But when they kind of watched it in the editing process, maybe it was a little bit too dark, too heavy, right? So maybe we won't have him murder a kid in this, right?
I gotta look that up now. I have to. Maybe there's some trivia on that because that's a really interesting conversation. Because I saw the movie. I think I saw it in the theater when it came out, and I just remember loving Steve Buscemi's character, and I must have been maybe in my early 20s, maybe when I don't remember, but I remember I love Steve Buscemi though, and so I don't know. I always want to think of whatever he's doing, he's an okay dude.
Yeah,
so,
I
don't know.
They definitely introduced his character as being like deranged. I mean, he was in full up lockdown. But then,
he was in Hannibal Lecter
full
gear,
freedom and everything. He never did anything that really instigated that need.
Well, maybe he was still a cannibal, but he wouldn't eat children, so it makes him okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Oh, the mystery. He was the Marietta Mangler,
yes,
if I recall, which got us all psyched because Steve and I are from Marietta. And Marietta at one time was actually considered, it has the highest rate of unsolved murders.
Really?
Yeah, it was on Jay Leno, if I remember right.
Proportionally or something. So, Jay Leno, he did a bit on it. He was like, if you want to kill somebody, go to Marietta, Ohio, because the cops can't solve it. Yeah. This was a long time ago, 90s.
Ohio does have a large rate of like people in basements that they find and stuff like that too, right? Yeah. There's always something going on in Ohio.
Yeah, it's like you either do that or you make a Nicolas Cage podcast.
Yep.
We don't have basements here, so.
Oh really?
And no, there's no basements in New Orleans. So I've been in maybe 2 basements in my life. I don't like it.
Wow.
If you ever want to go to a really nice basement, there's a guy over in Austria who's got a really nice basement. His name is Joseph Fritzl.
Don't listen to him. he was a serial killer.
He was.
I knew that sounded familiar.
Yeah,
he had a secret family. Remember, his daughter tried to run away, and so he.
Yeah.
An unwilling
Steve's-
family.
Yeah. He had another family with this other family.
I mean, all of us are kind of like, all of us have problems with some of our family, right?
Yeah. Some of them are just worse than others.
You mentioned people being found in basements in Ohio. There were these girls that because I'm from Cleveland area, and this guy was keeping these girls like chained up in his basement for like decades.
Oh, that was a bad story.
My friend works at a bank, and he ended up being the personal banker for one of these girls, and she just had all this money because of like interest that had accrued.
Oh my gosh.
That's the Cleveland House of Horrors, right?
I believe so, yeah.
That was terrible. Shall we talk about Face Off?
Also has some difficult moments in Face Off, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So here's our climax of the episode. Face Off, 1997. Probably my first Nick Cage film.
Okay.
That I ever saw as a little tyke. Steve and I loved it so much that we would go into the public park with cap guns, and we took off the little orange nubs at the end of the cap guns so that they looked real. You would get your ass killed today doing that stuff probably, but we would reenact it in the park.
Yeah.
Castor Troy.
Did you have like the John Woo dusters and like the doves and?
Only in our imaginations.
You had like a ski-doo that, whatever with insane shit went on in that movie.
Yeah.
We were poor. We didn't have that kind of budget.
We had imaginary ski-doos.
Yeah.
And we're thankful that this was pre social media.
Yeah. But we do still actually, I believe we actually have those videos up.
Yeah.
Now.
I did edit some and put them on the internet, and because we don't look anything like we did when we were kids, so it just looks like a bunch of dumbass 90s kids.
And speaking of which, it was actually the precursor to our screwing around show called Dumbass, which
That's true.
came out, ironically enough, just shortly before Jackass. Not saying that they stole the idea from us or anything, but they probably did.
Steve is convinced that
I'm also a conspiracy theorist, so...
yeah.
That's why Cage Fighter Steve and I are getting along here.
It's true. Yeah.
All right, Face Off. So, to foil a terrorist plot, an FBI agent undergoes facial transplant surgery to assume the identity of the criminal mastermind who murdered his only son. But the criminal wakes up prematurely and seeks revenge. Oh, does he seek revenge? Directed by John Woo, Nick Cage plays the character of Castor Troy opposite John Travolta as Sean Archer. I remember when I was editing the episode where we discussed Face Off, and I watched the trailer for the first time, and they made the trailer just for the movie without using. It was like its own scene. I thought that was pretty interesting. It was John Travolta's character talking about how he's going to catch this guy. And I just remember as a kid, I thought that this premise was so damn cool. And now it's like I have the same kind of love for this movie, but for much different reasons.
Same.
Like the ridiculousness of it. Like it's like the premise is so ridiculous, but they commit to it, right? And they just let it play out to its natural, epic, gunslinging conclusion. It's all style. Nick Cage has some amazing lines. You get so confused. You're like, who's Nick Cage? Who's John Travolta? What the hell's going on? Who's killing who? I don't care. It's great. I don't care. Sean, was that your first time watching Face Off?
It was, actually. Yeah, I just never got around to it.
Well, what was your gut reaction?
Yeah, as a modern viewer, again, I saw that movie when it came out, so I want to know what Sean, as a new viewer in this new day and age, when we have different technology, thinks of that movie.
I just thought, this is just the most, gonzo, I have seen Cage, at that level and budget, and they clearly spared no expense making that movie. And yeah, I also thought it was kind of interesting because like it's like you get Nick, but like you also get John Travolta pretending to be Nick. So it's like you get the best of both worlds.
So true. Yeah.
No, I thought it was I really think it was like one of the most entertaining movies we've done so far.
Oh, we knew you'd like it. Cage Fighter Steve, how has your opinion of Face Off changed over time?
So like you said, when we were younger, we were really into this film and thought it was really cool and everything. But for me, so I have a 4-year-old son now, and watching this movie now as a parent, I found it kind of disturbing in some ways. Especially Nick's interaction with the children or the child in this movie. It was just kind of creepy.
Oh, kind of.
Yeah.
It just made me really uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's true. I remember being a kid and I was, I lived with my mom, but I would see my dad every once in a while. We have a good relationship, but I remember seeing the relationship between John Travolta's character and the son at the beginning and all that, and I'm just like, I'm glad that's not my dad. That's kind of strange.
Yeah.
Speaking of Steve being a dad, this is kind of off topic, but we all watched Leaving Las Vegas together, and Steve's son ran in right at the end when during the sex scene. So
Yeah.
that's
He was into that.
great scene for children.
We watched one of the other movies.
He didn't
together.
see anything, though.
I'm trying to remember. There was one movie that we were watching, and I started watching it with him, thinking it was going to be acceptable, and then realizing very quickly that it was not.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one it was now, but yeah.
Well, when your kids end up, a little different, I guess you can blame me.
You already know my kids are going to end up in therapy, so
That's well.
I mean, even your grandmother says the same thing. When she found out first that I had kids, she just started laughing, and she's like, I just can't imagine you having kids. I'm like, thanks, Mima, I love you too.
Thanks, Mimo. She says that about all my friends.
It's true, it's true. But I'm still her favorite, so it's okay.
Yeah. Okay, Face Off. What's memorable to me is the moment Castor Troy wakes up in the hospital and realizes that his face is gone. It's just so glorious, right? And his face is cut off, and it's just like this mass of flesh, and he's smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
Some get infected.
In that scene that they had to remove most of the reflective surfaces because Nick didn't want to see what he looked like with all the grotesqueness on him.
Yeah, that's what you said. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the face-off stuff in Massive Talent.
Yeah.
That was sick. So
The guns of Castor Troy.
They show up.
yeah,
To me, that's what stole Face Off, was those guns.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
clearly the song, but Face Off is like one of those movies that I have so many thoughts about. Like, I loved it as an action movie when I saw it, but now through the years, I still watch it every time it comes on. I watch that movie every
Okay.
time it comes on, and
Yeah.
the whole time I'm thinking, this is so stupid, and but I'm gonna watch it every time it comes on because it's a fun ride, particularly the first half where Nicolas Cage is still Castor Troy, but. Where the movie loses me every time is when John Travolta's got Nicolas Cage's face, and he goes down to the prison, and his brother sees him, and he goes, "How do I know it's really you?" Now, how many face replacement surgeries do you think there were at that time? How do I know it's really you? And also, the difference between the skeletal structure of Nicolas Cage and John Travolta. I mean, you couldn't get two actors that were more similarly the bone structure. Just, I don't know. I'm not buying it.
right, yeah.
And then like there was that, like I said, the whole on the water action scene. But I think that John Woo is a lovely director when he comes to some of his for action movies. So, but yeah, I think the movie is awesome and horrible in equal parts.
One reason we started this podcast was I realized just how much fun I liked talking about movies with my friends, and I wanted to create this kind of time capsule. Whether other people like it or not, it didn't matter. There's something for us to come back to without me having to rewatch the movies. I can experience these movies without watching them and with my friends, right? And one thing that I love about the song is I realize the song does the same thing. Listening to that song and the lyrics, I'm like, oh my God, I'm watching Face Off, but just like a music version. And that's just something I really love.
We definitely plan on doing a video for that one because I knew that I had to do, whether it's one of my favorite Cage movies. Like I said, I have complicated feelings about that movie, but I was like, I knew that one was an important one if we're going to, and hopefully we're going to do a video for that soon. So we're hoping that all kinds of fun stuff happens for that.
Nice.
Because I did, and a lot of people say that like there's not a whole lot of rock bands, particularly metal punk bands that get local New Orleans musicians involved. And I heard that song and I was like, y'all, it's missing something. And I was like, I want a horn section on the song. So we did call a trumpet player friend of mine who's a jazz guy, and he laid down all the trumpet parts on that because and when I went in, I wrote the song and I just gave it to him. And when the guys went into the studio, they added this whole kind of like spaghetti western part on the beginning of it that I thought it needed a trumpet on it. So
that's cool.
yeah, so my friend Ted Ochoa, who's like in a local jazz band, came out and did that just for fun one day. So it was fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
As somebody who is a former ska kid, I definitely appreciate a good horn section.
Well, I'll get your address. I used to play bass in it was 4 girls and a guy. We were called the local skank, and my guitar player lives in Cleveland. So she moved back to Cleveland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
So I'll
That's
have to
cool.
hook all this up. It all comes full circle.
Yeah. No,
Very
that'd be
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, if you hear our intro song, it's me singing heavily auto-tuned to this beat, and I have the whole song, and we want to make like an entire Party with Nick Cage song.
Oh, you have to. You
That's
have to
what we
make
wanna
that
do.
happen.
We tried, but unfortunately the
We
closet
tried.
at my house doesn't have very good acoustics.
Yeah, we struggled last time, but I think we'll get it.
I'm gonna push for that to happen. I'm gonna check in with you guys and make sure that happens.
I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
We need that.
Yeah, we
need
do.
that. Yeah, we it's funny because it's like we don't take it too seriously, but we still have creative differences and what we're singing about Nicolas Cage. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to treat that topic with reverence.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't help that we have other musical venues that we've gone down that are much less serious and much more abstract and what's the word I'm looking for? Not disturbed, but inappropriate, I guess.
Inappropriate. Yeah.
That's fun too.
And but some of that was kind of taken away from the song when we tried to get some of those influences in there.
It was becoming too. What's that band that did "You and Me, Baby Ain't Nothing But Mammals"?
Oh yeah, I hear them all. The band that will never work again. What is the name of that band? And I wore that tape out. Damn it.
Anyway,
yeah,
it was becoming too much like that. I
Yeah.
think.
Okay. Yeah.
But it'll work out. It has to. I mean, Cage is back. Not that he ever went anywhere. That's what he
Never.
said.
It's true.
I love that he's doing indie movies now. That makes me really happy.
Yeah. Yeah, and we loved Pig, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
We had done an episode on Pig,
me too.
and fantastic film.
Yeah, he's just it's almost every single one that he's done, and I think I've watched everything he's come out with in the last 3 or 4 years has been good. It's been Primal. I wanted it to be better. I wanted it to be more fun, but
We haven't seen Primal.
Primal.
Yeah, we haven't watched that
He's
one.
He's on a ship with a bunch of escaped animals and a
Okay.
convict.
Oh, it's Nick Cage, Dr. Doolittle.
Yeah, yeah, but it's okay. But watch it. It's like an interesting concept.
Nice.
I think that's that and The Croods are probably the only recent Cage movies we haven't seen, because I know we did Pig, Willy's Wonderland, Prisoners of Ghostland, Jiu-Jitsu.
Prisoners of Ghostland was fantastic.
It was interesting.
Yeah. Oh,
We liked that he was working-
Jiu-Jitsu.
And then we also covered Color Out of Space and Mandy.
Yeah. Mom and Dad.
Jiu-Jitsu. Mom and Dad, we want to watch so bad.
Oh my God, y'all! What a banger of a movie! It's it's fantastic.
So, but we've
deliberated
deliberated so many times about like breaking our chronological order and just picking up some of these like really good movies, but that's why we've been picking up some of the new releases just to kind of like get a little bit more of the modern in. But yeah.
No, I'm glad you guys have seen at least Mandy and Color Out of Space too, because I think those are. I can't. Willy's Wonderland was great, but I think that the Mandy and Color Out of Space are going to be canon down the road.
Oh yeah.
So I have one final point to make on
Face Off.
Yeah, on Face Off. I want to just remind you guys that there are current discussions for both Nick and John Travolta to come back for a sequel to Face Off. They haven't gotten anywhere with it.
Are they going to get their
Reese
faces?
is shaking his head no.
No, I mean I'm just
trying to
how are they
imagine
going to do? They're going to get their faces swapped again?
Yeah, I mean
Again?
You know I'm going to give them my
Or
money.
they get-
So.
maybe
I
this
feel
time,
like
maybe this time it's not going to be their faces. They're going to swap something else.
How old's that daughter now? Oh, she's got children now.
God. I feel like it would have to be new characters, but they have cameos or they're something else.
I don't know. Like I said, it's still in discussion phase.
Listen, if that happens, I will be the first one in there to see
too.
it.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Maybe they have another character and they do a 3-way swap.
Oh my God.
They each take like half of the face.
So progressive.
I want a human centipede / face-off mashup.
Me too.
Everybody's attached by the head.
All I'm saying is that when I saw that Winnie the Pooh horror movie, I'm like, Nicolas Cage should play Christopher Robin.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, and we also the last time we spoke about Nicolas Cage, we saw the little promo image of him playing Dracula.
Oh, it's good.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we've gone through all the movies at this point. Unless you guys have any final thoughts on Face Off, now's your chance. Are we ready to move on then? We've gone through them all. I think it's up to you guys, but I would like to say I would be cool with Leaving Las Vegas, Con Air, or Face Off. Not saying you have to pick either of those three, but those would be like if we were doing it the way we did before, I would pick out of those three for my personal pick, and I would have a hard time doing it. What three would you guys pick, Sean and Steve?
My personal top 3, I mean, I would probably pick The Rock, Con Air, and Leaving Las Vegas. Those were the ones that I enjoyed the most. Not that Leaving Las Vegas wasn't a great film. It was just, kind of sad.
Okay. Steve, do you want to throw Guarding Tess back in there just for you?
I mean, if that's an option, my top picks would be whatever the worst ones are. I would have to say probably Con Air. I've always loved Con Air. It's probably out of all of them that we've watched in this season, Con Air is probably the one that I have seen the most times. I always, every time I see it on, I always get caught up and I watch it again. Truthfully, I always come back to Deadfall. I know it's not like a crowd favorite, but I love his character in that one so much. The movie itself isn't all that great, but I love Nick in that movie.
And we have such great memories watching it.
Yeah. And then Face Off, I don't know. It was nostalgic for me, but going back and watching it, I just I don't know. Like there's this entire idea behind it that Face Off is kind of like the pinnacle of Nick Cage. You know, it's that and National Treasure. That's what everybody seems to know him for, at least from what I've seen in pop culture, anyways. But it just wasn't really. I mean, after everything we've seen lately, it just really wasn't. It wasn't living up to the hype, I guess.
Yeah.
It just felt, I don't know, maybe too mainstream or maybe just just wasn't doing it for me. So I would have to say my third would probably be The Rock.
All right. Well, this is exciting. Cagelord Melissa, this will be your call.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go on and agree with Cagelord Reese, and I'm gonna pick the same top three. I think it's got to be Leaving
Okay.
Las Vegas, Con Air, and Face Off.
All right. I'm so honored. Before you do give your top pick, I don't know if you have one yet. If you need some time to think about it, that's fine too. I just want to give you guys one final chance to ask any more questions to Melissa about the band, Tomb of Nick Cage, or anything.
Or anything.
Or anything. Could be anything.
I'll answer it, probably.
Nick Cage has had 5 wives now. How do you feel about being number 6?
Well, I'd have to leave my husband, but he would understand. And
I mean, you could do like a joint venture.
I just feel like maybe if you added all their ages together, you would get my age at this point. So I think my chances are low. I wish him success with this new wife. I think she's adorable, and they're having a baby, and maybe fifth time is the charm. Whatever he's at now.
I mean, it depends on whether or not you count the 4-day one, but
That's right. I don't think that. Although we got a great karaoke moment out of that.
that's true.
So that's
All
So
right, some Nick Cage personal life stuff.
Sorry, I like to ask the hard questions.
Yeah. I think.
What are
No, go ahead,
Sorry.
Sean.
I was gonna say, what are some of your favorite more occult spots in New Orleans?
more creepy, like occult spots. Well, we've got so much here, and it's so weird that nobody talks about it, but there's things that, like, you could research, like the gates of Guinea, and they believe that there's 7 gates that lead to the underground, and they think that St. Louis number 1 is one of them. So I would say that is one of the spots. The French Quarter, just in general, it's very has like a magical, like feels like the veil is thin there. But I also like to go down to the swamps and Cajun country and stuff like that, and take in more of the nature and things like that. But there's all kinds of like I would really encourage people to like look past the surface when it comes to things like that, and looked into things like the axe murder of New Orleans. And things that you don't normally hear about, the Grunch Road monster, and so there's all kinds of things that people don't really talk about in New Orleans that are, to me, really cool, kind of paranormal phenomenon and things like that. So yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff. Come down, hang out.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely on my list to come back. My girlfriend is really excited to check out some more haunted spots.
Oh yeah. Take a ghost tour. I mean, a lot of it's BS, but some of it's fun. So I encourage people to go do that.
When I was down there, I went on this one tour. It was called the Bad Bitches of New Orleans tour, and we went to like Marie Laveau's house and the Lalaurie mansion, and there were some interesting stories about like where they thought vampires originated from, and just like some different murders. And,
they have the Ursuline, the old Ursuline convent, where they thought they had girls that would come over, and they would come with their luggage, and they were called casquettes, and that was just the name of the luggage, but they became known as the casket girls. So if you look at the top windows of the convent, everything is like shut with iron bars, and so they believe that there was some sort of vampiric activity there. I think it's a misinterpretation, but I sure do like the stories. So because New Orleans was kind of like the Wild Wild West back then when everybody was coming over, so very, very interesting historically.
I just want to throw this out there. I have one IMDb credit. I played a gorilla for the public access show Monster Madhouse.
I love that.
Yeah, I just want to throw that out there. I was
Awesome.
the gorilla.
If that exists, you have to send that to me.
Yeah, I will. It was fun. It was fun. Any more questions for Melissa? No?
I feel like I had another one written down, but I can't find it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of
What are some of your favorite horror films? I know all of us are, well, except maybe Cage Fighter Steve, but I know myself and Reese are big horror fans.
Well, recently, I loved Midsommar. I think I watched it look, do you like that one? A lot of people hate it. It's very polarizing.
We have what's called Cageless, where we will review non-Nick Cage movies, and we did an episode on Midsommar.
So what was the consensus? Did you guys like that one?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. I saw it like 3 times in the theater, and I kept bringing people, and I would just look over to see their reactions the whole time.
Yeah.
So that one, as a modern film, of course, Mandy is a new favorite now. I love Color Out of Space. And then some of the classics are Nightbreed, They Live. Carpenter's did so many good ones. I like Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. I watch that one every time they come on. Oh, the Howling series. And I liked, we just released a song about Ginger Snaps, which I like that one a whole lot too.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's one Steve likes. Steve isn't a huge horror aficionado, but he has a couple interesting.
But I don't,
I'm not much
I
a
like
fan of,
psychological
the
horror.
Yeah, I'm more of the psychological thriller kind of person. I don't really like the just gore for gore's sake.
Right.
It has to have a meaning behind it for me. So I loved Saw. I loved the first one.
Yeah.
The second one was okay.
I thought it was solid too.
I remember though. So me and Reese actually we went to go see Saw 3 in theaters the night before. We watched both Saw 1 and Saw 2. And we both walked out of the theater after watching Saw 3 with the general consensus with, at least it's the end.
At least this is the end.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. You gotta keep
Because
going.
it started out so fantastic. I mean, the direction and everything just for the first one was phenomenal. And the second one, it was a sequel. I mean, it
Had a great twist, though. I enjoyed the twist in the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but after that, it was off the tracks, and it was just
Now
gore
that
for gore's
director
sake.
also did Repo, the
Repo?
musical. Yeah, so
I actually have that on
I want
Blu-ray.
more of that, but
I
Saw
love
was
Repo.
making money, I guess.
Funny story on
Steve
Repo.
got me into that one.
I brought that to a friend's once, and they asked me if it was gory, and I told them no, I really don't think so. Because for me, watching it was fun, it was entertaining, it was a musical, it was, so I saw it no different than watching a Disney movie.
Right.
But watching it together with this person, I'm like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I've been trying to figure that out my whole life. I'm sorry.
No, I loved it too.
Yeah,
That was a good one.
I still watch it.
Yeah, Steve, if you there's a movie called The Invitation. If you like psychological horror, if you've seen that one, where a guy gets invited to a dinner party for his ex-wife, and you find out that they've lost a child, and it's the most stressful movie I've ever seen. It's not technically horror, and then I like The Ritual a whole lot too. So those are a few that have come out that are more like psychological in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
You mentioned a guy and a girl losing their child. That reminds me, there was a movie with what's his name? William Dafoe.
Antichrist.
Yeah,
show that one to your friends.
Yeah.
So as soon as you're
good
saying it, I was
right.
like, oh my God, Steve's totally gonna say Antichrist. Yeah, man, should I say this? I'm gonna watch probably every Lars von Trier movie that comes out, but I don't suggest them to everybody. No.
Yeah.
To you guys, I'll suggest them, and your listeners, this is where they stop listening. They're like, I'm never gonna. But yeah, because he's very polarizing. But I'll watch. I may not enjoy everything that he does, but I'll watch every Lars von Trier movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Melissa, do you have a pick?
I do, and it's with much suffering that I have
Drum
to
roll.
say that my second, the one that did not make it was to the number one spot was Leaving Las Vegas, but it was hard.
Okay.
But I do have to say that my pick out of all these, and it's a very hard one, was Con Air. Yeah, I know. It was hard. I mean, barely. But if you're going to take caginess, rewatchability, and enjoyability, then it has to be Con Air.
And best hairstyle.
Oh yeah, totally.
Obviously.
And
good.
sexy.
Wow.
And he should be still winning Sexiest Man Alive to this date, but at very least he should have won it that year.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Con Air is now officially in our B Cage of Fame, joining the ranks of Vampire's Kiss and Birdie.
Nice.
This is an amazing moment for the Cageverse. Wow. Thank you so much for that.
Well, it wasn't
I feel
easy.
like-
It was much
No.
wailing and rending of my hair. But yeah.
It's done. It's done.
That's why we had to call in an
Great pick.
expert, because we knew this was going to be a challenging season.
Right.
In fact, I
Yeah.
looked at the list when you sent it to me, and I was like, no. No, why are these movies up against each other? It's unfair. So,
I know. Yeah, that's how it goes, because we do the mini cage fights, right, where we pit them against each other. So at the end of the season, we have the best of the best.
yeah.
And it's always a challenge.
Yeah.
Except I'd say for that first season, maybe.
No, I mean we had
Maybe not.
Yeah, we had some real winners in that first season. You know, Valley Girl. And,
Well, that's true.
And
Yeah.
Racing with the Moon.
Well,
Cotton Club was disqualified.
Cotton Club was disqualified,
Yeah.
and I've been trying to get Steve to watch it.
I know.
Ever.
You
He won't
Reese
watch
even
it.
bought me the Blu-ray and sent it to me for
I bought it for
Christmas, so that I would watch it.
You gotta
And
watch
it's still
Cotton
sitting
Blu-ray?
unwrapped. And I also found the VHS tape sitting right there on the mantle whenever I whenever I go back to visit our hometown. I actually stay at Reese's grandmother's second house, and there
Yeah.
it was. Right up there on the mantle, the VHS of Cotton Club, just waiting for me.
Yeah. So the story is we actually couldn't sit through Cotton Club. It was the one movie that we just we could not stay focused
Yeah.
to what was happening.
Yeah.
And I think there's different reasons for that. You know, not necessarily that it's a bad movie, even though I think Francis Ford Coppola wasn't happy with it, and he actually released a new cut of it. Yeah. But we couldn't sit through it, and I was like, I can't even talk about this movie. And I had even bought it on VHS, and I left it at my grandmother's house. And then a week later, I'm talking to my grandmother, and she's like, "Oh, by the way, I found this movie, Cotton Club, and I watched it. Man, what a great movie! It's a good one."
Yeah.
Your grandma
like,
needs
yeah.
to be cage fighter.
I know that would be so dope. Yeah. And it's just we weren't the target audience, obviously, for that.
Yeah.
It was, I think, a product of its time.
Yeah.
But that's why Cotton Club was like an inside joke for us. But yeah, thank you so much again for being a part of this. It's a real pleasure to have you here.
Well, this is an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And go listen to The Tomb of Nick Cage right now. It is some fun stuff. Rock out to it in your car, wherever. Go to tombofnickcage.com. That's Nick with a K. You can find their music on Spotify, Bandcamp, iTunes, or Apple Music. And yeah, thanks again. And much congratulations to Con Air, Nicolas Cage, the whole cast. You guys have now been enshrined. And I hope you get an extra star out of this. All the actors in that film, they deserve it, right? On the Walk of Fame. All right, thank you everyone for listening to Late Night Cage Fight. It's been a blast. We have a lot of good stuff coming up for you in the future. So we will see you soon. Thank you very much, and goodbye.